Hey guys, it's Ruben here with a review for Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba Hinokami Chronicles. First things first, I have to mention that I'm a huge fan of the anime, but I'll keep my bias as I review the game. Also, if you guys haven't seen season 1 of the anime or the Mugen Train movie, I'd highly recommend watching them first as the game follows their plot lines. One last thing, a huge thanks to SEGA for providing a review key. To start the review, I think it's best to talk about what this game is. It's a third-person fighting game made by CyberConnect 2, and much like their previous Naruto games, this game is very similar. The only difference being the majority of the combat involves the use of swords, just like the anime. Now, if you played any of the Naruto Storm games, you're gonna feel right at home. Basic auto combos leading to flashy finishers, some cool animations, and very colorful ultimate attacks that leave the players with a sense of power and wonder. During combat, you'll be doing your best to perform combos and specials to defeat some generic enemies in story mode, along with some really cool looking bosses which are canon to the anime. Enemies will often have hyper armor attacks signified by the red outline around them. They cannot be blocked or parried, so it's best to dodge out of the way and look for an opening. The enemies in the story mode can also go into a frenzy state where they cannot be staggered by any attacks. This introduces a long sequence where you'll be doing your best to avoid all the powerful attacks and combos. Once they are finished with the frenzy mode, they'll be down for a few seconds to recover. This is the best chance to strike them for huge combos and damage. Some of these enemies can also shoot out poison, which will slowly drain your health as the fight progresses. Now, the bosses are the main attraction of the story mode, as all key fights in season 1 are present in the game. Each boss fight presents unique boss attacks, effects, and challenges. For example, one boss can fuse into the floor and avoid your attacks, for which you'll have to wait and strike at the right moment. Another boss can control the floor orientation of the battlefield. Pressing the right QuickTime event is crucial to staying alive without taking damage. Other bosses can put you to sleep and can even poison or slow your movement down by shooting webs at you. The bosses are definitely the creative aspect of the story mode, as is also visually pleasing. Another major aspect of these fights are QuickTime events. Unlike Naruto Storm games, which feature QuickTime events throughout the fights, during transitions and end of fights, in Hinokami Chronicles, the only time you ever see QuickTime events are at the end of fights. That too, not too many. They are simplified and also very easy to perform with plenty of time. In terms of combat, I felt that the game was simplistic in nature. Unlike other fighting games which involve different controls and inputs for each character, the controls for all these characters are the same. You have your basic 4-hit auto combo, which can be modified to launch into the air or smash into the ground, or can be even led into a special attack. Each character can utilize 3 special attacks, which can combo with auto combos. While the combat may look flashy and be fun to play for a little bit, after a certain amount of time, you're gonna start feeling that there's not much sense of accomplishment. Even on the hardest difficulties, you can wait for enemies to finish their attacks, then go in and do your combos and specials and get out of the way. Rinse and repeat. It's only in the last chapter of the story mode where the bosses felt like an actual threat. Now, this isn't the same when fighting humans in local versus matches or online. In these fights, you will need to use some tactics, for example, when to use your combos and specials, as human players can use teammate assist to get out of tricky situations. But from what I've seen online, most people find the character that attacks the fastest and spam their auto combos. This is the state of the game. It's very easy to pick up the game and anyone can master it. There's not much of a skill gap that can be established with the combat system. If you're really interested in getting this game, you should at least temper your expectations when it comes to the competitive aspect of this combat system. Alright, next up we can talk about the story mode. The story follows season 1 of the anime and the Mugen Train movie with iconic fights and in-game cutscenes. There are a total of 8 chapters and should take you anywhere from 8 to 10 hours on your first run. To 100% the story with S ranks in each chapter and unlocking all the rewards, it should take about another 2 to 3 hours depending on skill. Now, the story mode is not something I can go into too much detail as it's heavy spoiler territory, so let's just talk about what you'll be doing in this mode. Each chapter will have some cutscenes setting up the story for the chapter and usually concludes with an intense series of boss fights. Depending on the chapter, you may fight generic enemies or explore a map in which you can collect Kimetsu points, memory fragments, and dive into side objectives. Now, when it comes to side objectives, the game falters a lot here. You don't do much in these maps other than go to different points of the map, pick up these items, and interact with some people. Interacting with objects and people count as side objectives, and this is a huge misfire in the game as it really doesn't add much to the overall story. CyberConnect 2 had an opportunity to introduce side missions, objectives, which gave cool rewards, etc., but none of that is present. In their past Naruto Storm games, there's usually a plethora of side stuff you can do, which unlocks items, tools, and food that can be used during battles and within the chapters. Well, sad to say none of that exists in this game, and it's a bit disappointing in that aspect. Where it does shine is in the in-game cutscenes, animations during them, and also spectacles of the boss fight, which are brought into a gaming medium. Now, going through the story missions will not showcase all of the story of Demon Slayer. Sadly, half of the important scenes and story are locked behind these memory fragments, which are direct stills taken from the anime with the anime voiceovers. Instead of giving us more cutscenes and unique things to do in the story, we're left with watching these memory fragments to fill in the story bits. I just felt that the devs took a lazy way out in this aspect. Some very important scenes in the games are not even shown as in-game cutscenes, and some are entirely missing as well. The game also features some mini-games like gourd breaking and teacup challenges. These involve the pressing of the right face buttons at the correct time. It helps to break the pace, but more mini-games like this would have been preferred over the memory fragments, which I can't even show here as most of them are claimed from music or worse, blocked because they're directly from the anime. Now, I mentioned the Kimetsu points and rewards. Completing challenges within the story mode will unlock new players to use, new costumes for them, quotes, music tracks, photos, and new maps to fight in versus mode. Basically, to unlock all of them, you will need to S-rank all chapters. Simple enough. Now, if that isn't your cup of tea, you can use Kimetsu points, which are the game's form of currency, to unlock these rewards without getting A or S ranks in the chapters. To earn more Kimetsu points, you can find them in story mode, complete challenges, fight online or locally, and lastly, do training challenges for each character. Which then leads me to the roster. It's kinda small. There are a total of 18 characters at launch, but out of them, 6 characters are modified versions of the characters already in the roster. They're Academy versions of Tanjiro, Nezuko, Zenitsu, Inosuke, Giyu, and Shinobu. They have different clothing, slightly modified movesets, and different ultimates. It's kind of disappointing, really. Would have much preferred to have some demons in there and other demon slayers. SEGA has mentioned that 2 demons will be added to the game post-launch, but right now, at this moment, the roster is a bit bare. Another issue is the stages you fight in. There are only 10 stages, and one of them is used for a different time of the day. And there's not even any destructibles in the maps either. And that's the issue with the game at the moment. Once story mode is done, you can fight online or offline with the limited roster of characters who all mechanically play the same, but have different models and animations. In online, you can do ranked or custom matches, but it took me long wait times to be matched up. The matches themselves ran fine. In terms of offline, you can fight against humans, computer, or do practice mode to try out your combos. There's not even an arcade mode in this game, which is kinda sad. Lastly, there is a training challenge mode where each character has a set of 10 challenges to complete. There are maybe 3 to 4 unique challenges and objectives, which then get recycled over and over again between the 12 characters. It becomes tedious by the end. The only reason you want to finish this mode is for a couple trophies and Kimetsu points. But now, in terms of visual and audio design, you're looking at anime-like visuals with great sound design during combat. The voice actors reprise their roles from the anime for the most part, and some music is directly taken from the anime as well. The game in 4K mode runs at 30 FPS, with frame rate going above 30 at times. Being that it is a cross-gen title, the 4K mode seems to be dynamic on the PS5. SEGA has confirmed that there will be a post-launch update that will add 60 FPS mode to the game. The time frame was not mentioned. And that's pretty much it for the game, guys. I've detailed out the positives and the negatives for the game. The game does a decent job of bringing the Demon Slayer franchise into a gaming format, but the combat system and the story mode design feels a little bit dated and borrows heavily from the previous Naruto Storm games. I was hoping the game would have an identity of its own, but other than the story which follows the anime and movie, most of what is there is stuff you've already seen before in the Naruto Storm series, just polished and changed a bit to feature the Demon Slayer mechanics. The game has great aesthetics, audio design, and the combat works, but the roster is small, there's not enough unique characters, a small selection of stages to fight in, and the game's story mode features half of the interesting scenes in still image formats as memory fragments. It kinda really takes away from the experience. I still had a ton of fun using each character in the game, and some of the boss fights were amazing with great visuals and music. Oh, the music. The problem is that these boss fights are spaced between generic enemy fights which are reused and reskinned, and only 2 mini games to keep you entertained along the way. While I know the source material is kinda small as they are having to use only Season 1 and Mugen Train movie, the developers could have found ways to add more unique aspects to the game and think outside the box to add more variety to the side missions, etc. With all things considered, I give this game a 7 out of 10. It's got good gameplay, visuals, music, and audio design, but it's a game where once you beat it, you'll do a couple online matches and then some local matches. then move on to something more challenging, as at the end of the day, you're playing it for the spectacle. If you're a huge fan of the anime, you'll enjoy the game just like I did, and will find the $79.99 price tag in Canada somewhat justifiable. But if you're new to the series, you can probably wait for a sale while the developers add more characters and content to the game and beef it up. In the meantime, try out the Naruto Storm series, as the gameplay is pretty much the same. It can give you an idea of what it is about or whether you'd like these type of games before spending full price. Hope you guys enjoyed the review and found it informative. The game will be available in early access through the deluxe edition on October 13th, and the base version will go live on the 15th. Check the game out if you're interested, but that's gonna be it for this one. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.